The sting of the Argos' early NCAA tournament exit has begun to subside, making way for an appreciation for the historic season. Jeff Burkhamer stops by once more to discuss his team's run. Plus, we talk baseball with head coach Mike Jeffcoat. We begin our transition to spring today on Argo Sports Weekly. And welcome into Argo Sports Weekly as we wind down with men's basketball. Coach, I know you look back on that game last weekend, and I'm sure it still hurts a little bit, but this is the point, I said it in the open, where you can go back and appreciate how good this season was.
Well, it was a great season. It's hard to win 28 games. That's something that's very special. I told our players, you look back on this in a few years and go, wow, we did something really, really cool. A lot of firsts this year, a lot of things that have never been done in this program. And unfortunately, we didn't play well in a big game on a big stage for about 8 minutes, and it cost us an opportunity to move on and advance.
Well, let's take a look at that game and that stage. The Argos, of course, playing their first ever NCAA tournament game. Rashawn Benson, I thought he really played well.
Rashawn had a good game. We didn't play well overall, but I thought Rashawn played well. Marvin Jones had a terrific second half, but we just didn't get enough things done from individuals that have played terrific all season long and just didn't start the game well, Tom. He just really struggled early in the game.
Well, I thought once Shallow folk got going, hit that big three in the second half, you might be able to go on a run. It seemed like every time you'd hit some shots, they'd come right back down and answer.
They did. They answered every time, and that's the mark of a good team. We'd make a mini run, and then they'd hit a shot and take us out of what we were doing, and that's a credit to them. They've got a very good team. They got a pro point guard. Kid is very, very good, player of the year in their league back-to-back years, and here you see him making plays, just a terrific player. But they've got a good team. They beat the SEC champions this year, Auburn in a preseason game, so you know they've got a pretty good club.
Elvar Friedrichsen, 23 points in this game. I mean, he was just tough to stop. Marvin Jones had a very quiet first half, put up 21, though, in the second half, which kind of you thought might keep you in the game. But like we talked about, every time he'd come up with a big shot, they'd come right back.
Yeah, Marvin was really good in the second half. He made some shots. We got some good looks for him. He finished plays, but just didn't have enough to overcome too big of a deficit from early in the game.
DJ Thorpe finished with 10 points, and then there's Marvin again, the drive and the step back. Nice shot there for him. I'm sure he would have liked to have had a stronger first half, but at the end of the day, it doesn't come down to just one player.
No, it's our team all year long has been 3, 4, 5 guys contributing and helping us win, and in this game, this just didn't happen. We had 3 or 4 guys not play as well as they normally played, and we really struggled because of it. We didn't play well the first 8 minutes. You look at the first half, shooting 28% and turning it over 7 or 8 times. It led to easy baskets, and that's not a good recipe when you're playing a really good team.
Talk about those first 8 minutes. What were they doing that had you guys so off balance, or was it just nerves on that stage?
I think it was just a big stage. I mean, we got some really good shots. We had some inside shots we missed. We had some open outside shots. But I think the turnovers were really tough. We hadn't had 4 or 5 walking calls, I don't think, all year, and we had those in the first 5 minutes of the game. So you could tell nerves were a problem, and then they were able to come down and convert their 5th straight NCAA tournament appearance, and you could tell they felt much more comfortable than our guys did early in the game.
They're a tough team to defend. Why were they so hard to defend?
They got so many guys that can shoot the ball. Friedrichsen is a terrific passer. I mean, when I say terrific, I mean the best we've faced since I've been here. Great passer, finds people, runs the show, doesn't get rattled, and then he can make shots. And then they got Glick and a bunch of other guys that are just terrific shooters, and they spread you out, and you have to guard everybody, and you have to guard the whole court, so it makes it very difficult to guard them.
Obviously, there was some foul trouble in this game, but I want to talk about if that played a factor at all as well. But plenty more to get to on this one. Plus, let's reflect on a great season when we come back. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All right, still plenty more to get to with Argonaut head coach Jeff Burkhamer, and his teams have won 48 games over the last 2 seasons. That should certainly help the program's footprint. We discuss how that affects recruiting when we come back.
We will never settle for the kiddie pool. We are destined for the vast ocean of opportunities that await us. We were born to make a splash. At the University of West Florida, you can make a discovery, make a difference, make a splash. So take a deep breath and dive in. The University of West Florida. How will you make a splash?
Bye-bye. Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
This is the story of a boy who was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help. And slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Being a champion takes more than talent, more than the perfect pass, more than using your head. Being a champion takes the spirit to always push harder, the ability to overcome any hurdle, and the fire to be the best. Welcome to Division 2, where the pursuit is yours to create. And the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you?
Welcome back to Argo Sports Weekly. Still plenty more to discuss with men's basketball after a tremendous season as we are joined by Jeff Burkhamer. Coach, we didn't get into it in the first segment, but foul trouble in that game against Barry. I know Daryl Tucker was in some foul trouble, a couple other guys. Did that play much of a factor in that game?
Well, it certainly played a factor with Daryl. He picked up 2 quick ones in the first half. We had to get him out. He comes back in. He gets 2 probably within 15 seconds of each other on his 3rd and 4th foul. So to take an all-region, all-league guy out of the game and really only give him 10 minutes in a game certainly affects our team because he's a big part of scoring it and rebounding it, and we had to play without him most of the game.
Well, and a lot of that comes down to his energy is a big part of what makes him so good. Yeah. He was just never able to get to that point.
Never got involved in the game, and I know he felt worse than anybody about it. He picked up a couple cheap fouls. I think he was just so excited about playing that he got his hands on guys, and they made the calls. And it's unfortunate because he's been such a good player for us all year, and he really didn't get to play on the big stage in a big game.
And it's hard to get frustrated with a guy like that because you know it's going to eat him up. This is his last ever game. That's going to eat him up way more than it ever will you.
Well, I know guys wanted to play better than they played, and that's where I felt bad for our players. We didn't necessarily have our best effort, our best game that day. If you get beat, that's fine, but you want to really do it playing the best that you can possibly play. And the first 8 minutes took us out of the game. After that, we were fine, but that's where it's a little bit frustrating. I know our guys were frustrated by that too.
You had 2 of your top scorers all season that went a combined 0 for 11. That again compounds this situation. But you talk about this team and you talk about digging the hole early. What makes them so hard to come back against?
Well, I think their point guard, Friedrichsen, he doesn't ever get rattled. He's very poised. He knows when to slow it down if we made a little run to make sure they get a good shot. He creates for other people. It gets them good looks. And then, to their credit, they made every open shot. Anytime we made a defensive mistake, they took advantage of it. We weren't near as good defensively in this game as we've been throughout the year. And I think a little bit had to do with the nerves early and some of the foul trouble early. But we weren't as active in our zone. We weren't as active in our man. You could even tell we weren't talking as much. So I know that the game, I think the stage really affected how we played early. And defensively is an area we get teams bothered by, and we were able to get some baskets from. And in this game, that didn't happen.
Well, you know what? It's certainly another building block in the process. I know these guys, these seniors, the 4 seniors that you lose, it's hard for them to go out like that. But at the same time, this is a big obstacle to overcome because now you crash down this door. That game next year, if you get back, is a lot easier now.
Well, you would think so. We'll have some returning guys that then have now been there and seen what it's like and seen the big stage. But, those 4 seniors, I mean, what can you say about those guys over the last 2 years, helping us build this program, taking it to a different level, and all the things that we've accomplished over those 2 years, especially this second year, have just been outstanding.
Well, we talked about the frustrations with Daryl in that game. Let's brag on him a little bit. Obviously took home some all-conference accolades. Now he's all-region as well. It was named this week, so big congratulations to Daryl Tucker. And very well-deserved with the season and the career he's had here.
Well, from where he came from to where he got to is incredible. He goes from not playing much in high school to being a solid junior college player to now being an all-league, all-region player at the 4-year level. Just really happy for him, the hard work that he's put in. He stayed all last summer, and he just really paid off for him. He had a great year. leading us to a great season.
Talk about this season. Is there anything that stands out to you the most when you look back that you felt, okay, this was the turning point, this is when we realized just how good we can be, and this is where we got over the hump to take the next level?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we never panicked. When we got beat a couple times, we didn't panic. We still had the poise to go ahead and believe that we were going to win the next game, and then we rattled off about 10 in a row to finish the season out the right way, played really well down the stretch, played well in the tournament, and found a way to win in the tournament. But I think the biggest thing, Tommy, with our team was just it was a great team. We didn't have one guy we depended on, different guys each night, usually 2 or 3 of them each night. Maybe 1 or 2 guys didn't have as good a game. That sometimes that's due to matchups, how other teams play, maybe how we attacked. But just the way our guys played together, believed in each other, how much fun they had together, is a lot of fun to coach, and I'm really proud of those guys.
There's a lot of elements to building a program, and I feel like each of your 3 years here, the program has taken large steps in that building process. Let's talk recruiting now, because that's kind of the foundation of that whole process. How has the recruiting process changed each of the 3 years you've been here?
Well, the first year was come in and help us change culture, help us change the program, let's get it back headed in the right direction. Last year was, hey, let's take the next step. We've won 20. Now let's take the next step, make the NCAA tournament. And now it's okay, let's be a national team. Let's be a team that can be consistently good within the South region, where we're challenging for GSC titles every year, and really have a good consistency each season from here out with good players. So that's a challenge, and it's easy to maybe build it, but you want to stay there. You don't want to drop back down. And we lose 4 very, very good players that it's going to be tough to replace, and we're going to have a terrific recruiting season.
How do you replace those guys? Do you replace them with guys you've got in place, or do you have to go out and find some junior college guys?
Well, it's interesting. Those 4 guys, if you look back to last season, really weren't starters. Those were guys that stayed here all summer and got better and better and really led us this year. Well, we've got some guys returning that had that same opportunity. Are they going to stick around? Are they going to work this summer? Are they going to work themselves into starting positions? Or are we going to bring guys in that they're going to play behind? And that's kind of up to them. We'll see. But we're going to try to recruit the best players we can recruit. We want to get guys that we feel like can help us win in the GSC, help us be challengers in the region again. But we've got 4 big guys to replace, and that's going to be a tough task, because not only are these guys good players, but they're also good kids. They're guys that we haven't had any trouble with academically. They've taken care of their work in the classroom, and that's what it takes. You're going to be a student athlete. We want to be able to combine all those things to make it into a good Argo basketball player.
No rest for the weary. It's a long season, and unfortunately for you, after a loss like that and the season comes to a close, there's no break. It's right back out to the recruiting trail.
Right back out. And now's a really big time for us to get some things done.
Well, good luck with it, and it was a great season. It was fun to watch. We look forward to doing it again next year.
Appreciate all your help. Thank you.
All right. That is Argonaut head coach Jeff Burkhamer. Next, we switch gears and talk Argo baseball with head coach Mike Jeffcoat on Argo Sports Weekly.
We are not here to drift. We were born to move, to change, to jump in, dive deep, make waves, break through. We were born to splash. The University of West Florida is America's best university for making a splash. The University of West Florida. How will you make a splash?
Just go do it. Go do it.
If you're not in control, then who is? Live above the influence.
Facing life's difficulties takes strength and determination. Whether it's physical challenges or struggles you can't see, it takes strength to ask for help when you need it. Learn how other veterans have reached out and hear their stories of strength and recovery at maketheconnection.net.
Bye-bye.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Welcome back to Argo Sports Weekly. The Argo men's and women's tennis teams continue to maintain their level of excellence this season. The women claimed a 7-2 win at home over Nova Southeastern last week. The win marked the 900th combined win for men's and women's tennis head coach Derek Racine. The women claimed another win this week against number 14 UC San Diego. The 5th-ranked Argos are one of just 4 top 15 teams that remain undefeated. The next ranking will be announced on the 21st. The Argo softball team started slow this season. They started slow last season, too. Then, about this time, they rattled off 23 wins in a row and won the regional, advancing to the College World Series. That streak started on March 7th. As of March 11th of 2018, this year, they had won 4 straight. Streaks have to start somewhere. The Argos went into the early week series starting Sunday at 13-8. They made quick work of Christian Brothers, sweeping the three games behind a combined score of 30-7. That win streak sits at 7 games now. Stay tuned. They're in Clinton, Mississippi for 3 games against Mississippi College over the weekend. As for the baseball team, they too weren't satisfied with their 2-6 start. They were in Memphis over the weekend and also playing Christian Brothers, and like their female counterparts, took care of business. The Argos swept the 3-game set. They outscored the Bucks 33-7 in the series, and they too are streaking. The Argos have now won 10 straight heading into this weekend series with Mississippi College. And we're joined now by their skipper. We welcome in Mike Jeffcoat. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Got to be happy with the team's turnaround, but you know, the start of the season, you've got a lot of new pieces. You're plagued by the injury bug a little bit early, and you've got to try to figure out how everything fits together there early on too.
Yeah, and I think I talked about that preseason. Having the talent, felt like we had a lot of great players and guys that wanted to be great teammates and showing great character and work ethic, and but had a lot of unknowns and didn't know where they were all going to play, how all the pieces were going to fit in together, even though you try to look at that as much as you can in inter-squad. Until you start playing and they're under the real fire, do you find out? And, you know, opening weekend at Florida Southern didn't have all our guys, a few key pieces. Joey Ben was trying to clear through eligibility, and Dylan Mills wasn't with the team, had some other academic stuff that we wanted him to do. And Chase Evans was coming back, our reliever, from a knee surgery in December. Didn't have everybody there. Still were in those ball games. Just, you know, didn't play very well, and Florida Southern had a couple big home runs that ended up costing us the series. But, you know, as we went along bouncing around, we started getting those guys back and playing a little more consistent and being right there. And I told them that at North Alabama when we lost the second game of the doubleheader, trying to salvage winning the series after losing the middle game. That I told them we weren't, you know, this far away. We were right there. We just had to clean a few things up. Ended up making more errors in that second game, and it hurt us. But I think the key was just trying to get everybody going again.
Hey, and once you start to get the pieces into place, that brings you to where you are now. And the teams you've beat over this little 10-game stretch, these are competitive teams.
Yeah, they are. And, you know, you and I talked about it. You can say, well, boy, you blew them out. They must not be very good. You could look at their overall record and say, well, you know, they're not very good. And maybe they haven't played well consistently throughout the year. But, you know, the Union, the Miles that we started our streak with, solid clubs have beaten GSC schools. They're midweek. They're throwing their 1 or 2 against us. And, you know, they're trying to beat us. And we played well. I think the jet lag getting back late from North Al helped us, and we started playing more loose, started pitching and playing defense, and that kind of put the fuel for the offense.
Let's talk about the pitching on this team, because over this 10-game stretch, you've only allowed 25 runs. That's 2.5 runs a game, and with the way you've been swinging the bat, that's enough. So talk about the pitching, and it feels like things are starting to fall into place.
Yeah, one of the things we've really focused on with the pitchers was saying, look, every one of you guys are capable, and it's got to be frustrating. And when you get to the point that you're frustrated enough to quit making some of these mistakes, maybe pitching not to, make the mistake, and worried about getting hit, and start trusting and believing, and let's locate and change speeds and trust your defense, attack the zone. When they started doing that more often, and then it started feeding to other guys. And of course, we always try to build our bullpen depth, and you've seen us use 4 and 5 pitchers a game. Even though a guy may still look okay, we saw him at a pitch limit, know what his capabilities are, want to get another guy fresh in there, and then you're getting guys experience. And I think as that is built, and you look at our innings pitched scattered through the staff, it's given guys more alertness to be ready. I think we made a great move just moving them all down to the bullpen. And instead of sending 2 or 3, once you think something may get problem started, they started. I said, be yourselves, have fun down there, and give us more room in the dugout. And if you've been to any of our home games, you've seen them dancing when we score, and all that. Where a team's got to have an identity that kind of just morphs. It can't be planned or forced, and we've started doing that.
And being goofballs is what a bullpen's best at, aren't they?
Exactly. All I said was come in, ready to do your job.
Yep.
Be ready. Do whatever you got to do to stay relaxed. I've been a pitcher. Pitchers are goofy anyway. Be all that down there so then I don't get upset in the dugout, and you just come in and do your job.
There you go. It's worked out. Plenty more to get to with Mike Jeffcoat. As good as the pitching has been lately, the Argos are swinging the bats even better. We discuss that next.
The world is our ocean, and we are here to make a splash, to dive deep, to create, to develop, to break through. At the University of West Florida, there's no limit to how you can make a splash. Don't just sit on shore, jump in. The University of West Florida. How will you make a splash?
It's a miracle that springs forth to feed us, to clothe us, to bring us joy. A miracle prompted by rain and warmed by the sun. But few realize without healthy soil below ground, there would be little life above it. Learn more about this miracle under our feet and how we're working with farmers and ranchers to unlock the secrets in the soil.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
One in 3 teens who smoke will lose years of these moments. It's your life. Don't miss a thing.
Welcome back to Argo Sports Weekly. We continue talking baseball with Argo and baseball coach Mike Jeffcoat. Coach, you guys have really, we talked about the pitching last segment, but as good as the pitching's been, you guys have scored 33 runs over the 3 games at Christian Brothers. That's some pretty good offense. The bats have really been coming alive lately. What's kind of triggered all that?
Yeah, I mean, over, like we talked about, the 10 games we've won here. When we started pitching and catching it and getting off the field, we started spending more time on the offense. And I think it relaxed the guys and, started, getting the pieces in the places we thought. And one of the big moves we made, Coach Brown and I talked about, is we moved Nick Strasser to the leadoff. We had him hitting in the 3-hole, but we kept seeing that, one spot come up in the 9th or in the extra inning or, the 5 at bats, and we said, hey, he's our best guy. He can run a little bit. He can still steal some bases. Obviously, he's got some power, but we want to get him that extra at bat every game, and it's paid off big time, and he's kind of charged our team.
Sometimes you get caught up on where guys are in the lineup. Sometimes you just want your best hitter to get the most at bats, right?
That's exactly right. And you know, when it comes down to the simplicity of it, and you talk to some of the great minds of baseball, the managers and coaches, that's what they'll tell you. You know, how do you build your lineup? Well, you put your best hitters, you know, in the top 5.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to all get the most at bats, regardless of, you know, skill or whatever. Let that figure itself out as far as speed or what have you. But and that's helped. And then B.J. Harmon, our senior, has slid into the 2-hole. He's from the left side. He's really had a great year. His on base is over 500, I think. Been a catalyst there. And then getting Joey Ben back healthy in the 4-hole has kind of protected Nick Kirkman, our senior, that we've been batting in the 3-hole. Nick's had a solid year. I think he's tops on the team in RBIs, hitting right at 301 or whatever. But Ben has, you know, something like 19 RBIs in the 15 games he's played, hitting 373 with a 10-game hit streak. And so then Matt Sullivan in the 5-hole, that's our catcher that now we've been playing in left field as well to keep his bat in the lineup, hitting 388, 7 RBIs, I think, and 6 runs in the last 5 games. So 1 through 5, it's become a lot more difficult to pitch. Then you tack on Matt Jones, our shortstop, that struggled early, and we made an adjustment with his hands, and now he's been on fire, hit the walk-off against Southern Indiana in the midweek, 3 home runs last week. Him in the 6-hole, it's just keeps building the lineup.
We'll talk about that team. Southern Indiana came in. They were number 16 in the nation. You played them in 2 games. You put up 20 runs in those 2 games. That's a really good test, and I feel like that's a pretty good barometer for where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, and we saw that in the January when we started getting the continuity in the lineup, where on inter-squad days it would be once one of those guys started hitting in the top of the order, it was almost like a domino effect. They all got looser, and they all, whether it was our pitchers or not. And you've seen that in these last 10 games. In Southern Indiana, they got a very good club. Their ranking is worthy regardless of their record. And Coach Archuleta has won 2 national championships here in the last 5-6 years. And they were a test, and they had some athletes. And, we were able to put some runs on the board. They were able to tie it. And then we answered with some solo home runs and so forth. And they, we kind of let them score some runs in that Tuesday night game, made a couple of key errors to let them back in it. But to hold on there, take it to the 10th inning, and Matt Jones hit the walk-off, that kind of, I think, ignited us for the rest of the week.
You talked about Jones and making the adjustment with his hands. B.J. Harmon had a good year last year. He hit 300, but now he's taking it to another level. He's hitting 100 points better. He's over 400. Is there any adjustment he's made, or is it just getting comfortable here?
It's the opposite on B.J. and Matt Jones. B.J. had his hands low, and we asked him in January to make an adjustment to be more through the baseball, to be able to use the whole field and get your hands up higher, get your butt underneath you a little better so that you can stay through the middle of the field. He's got some pull pop, but he tended to fall off of it a little bit and bat come out of the zone. So raised his hands. Matt Jones had his hands too high and did some wrapping, and we lowered his so that he'd get a shorter path to the ball. We're not geniuses, but, they're the athletes that were able to do that adjustment, and I think the results speak for themselves.
Before we let you go, I got to ask you about Nick Strasser's cycle. That's one of those things, unless you're in the stands keeping close attention, maybe keeping score, it's hard to keep notice of it. You're obviously paying close attention in the dugout. What's that game like as you see that start to unfold?
Yeah, well, that was a conference game, and you're wanting to kind of take the doubleheader sweep there, and I focus, I'm calling the pitches, and so I'm enthralled with what Dylan is doing. But really, after they had scored that run, made a little error there, and he walked 2 in the inning, I was just upset that he gave up the run. I wasn't even thinking about the no-hitter. And then we're trying to, tack onto our lead as Nick had led off the game with a home run, then a ground rule double. Then, it's still only 3-0, I think. And, we're wanting to, or 3-1, and we're wanting to get a big run in second and third. Nick hits it back up the middle for his single, drives in 2. Here we go along and get to the bottom of the 6th, and he comes up, and I really hadn't been paying attention. I was talking to Dylan about finishing strong, and I guess they'd all talked about it, and he hit the triple, and it was a great night. And then the no-hitter to finish it off. Yeah. Special night to be a part of.
Very, very cool evening. Well, Coach, thanks so much. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that is Argonaut head coach Mike Jeffcoat. Still more to get to. Plenty more coming up this weekend. That's all the time we have on the show. But Argo swimming and diving is at the national meet in Greensboro, North Carolina. Tennis is at home Saturday at 2 o'clock. You can stay up to date with their progress, and baseball and softball's weekend in Clinton, Mississippi at GoArgos.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next week on Argo Sports Weekly.